lovely boy called David. He would have been about 20 or 21 at the time. He was a dancer. He was fated for a very good career as a dancer. Like he was being groomed to be, a very good dancer. He was already very good. And he was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. He had this stunning blonde hair, naturally blonde hair, these bright eyes, these bright blue eyes that just sparkled, extremely handsome, good body, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he was the sort of man who could walk into a room and all these lecherous older gay men would go,
"Who's he?"
Dancer's body. Anyway, David had got diagnosed with AIDS, not HIV, when he was 20. He had this condition which was going to kill him, but he still looked beautiful. Anyway, the moment I remember is I was education manager, used to run groups for young gay men about negotiating sexual life with HIV. David would occasionally attend some of these groups because one of the dominant strategies that young men thought they could use at the time was...
we can tell people with HIV because they look sick. We'll just avoid them.
So avoidance was one of the dominant strategies. David would sit in the group, and the group would all be in love with him and want to talk to him, and David wouldn't say much, and blah, 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 and they'd play these games about how you can tell if someone has HIV. David would play along as if he were a negative gay man. After a bit of a while, they got a bit of a break. And after a bit of a break, it would be revealed that David was actually HIV positive, and then the group went into complete shock, didn't know how to deal with it, and suddenly went,
"Fuck, avoidance doesn't work."
I sat in on one of those groups, and it was just extraordinary. Just to see the light come on and go, okay.
We actually need some real skills to deal with this stuff.
Some people were really resentful about what had happened to them, because they thought it was a safe HIV-negative group. It's like, here's this person that they want to talk to and be nice to and try and get to bed, and they revealed all these attitudes which said they didn't like people with HIV. It was like,
oh, fuck, there you go, my chances.
He was a complicated person. He caused heaps of drama, that boy. He died.
I think it helped that the Labor government was elected in March of '83 and that Dr. Blewett and his advisors were not wedded to the idea of just a care and treatment as being the public health response to anything. I think Australians are, whether you think of them as being descended or think of us as being descended from convicts and cops, there's a general attitude in Australia that people are not perfectible on earth, and that you cope with what goes wrong in a pragmatic, sane and sensible way, trying to minimise the harm that's being done, particularly when it comes to young people. So the argument that Dr. Blewett said to Mr. Keating was, if we do all of this, we can keep the caseload down. We were arguing the case for prevention. And as custodian of the national finances, Mr. Keating, as treasurer, would say, fine! It was a better investment to invest in this than to take on 20,000 cases of people with HIV, or 30,000 or 40,000 that are a drain on resources. We believed in prevention. The idea that prevention was better than cure, cheaper than cure, and the mobilising of people around behaviour change. Modest behaviour change, backed sometimes by law, but mainly by education and discussion. Everything that works for a highly educated, literate society was a good idea, was a good policy.
We'd get these cold calls from people about HIV information, and this woman, come on the phone, she said that she was concerned about HIV. Essentially what she said was that she and her husband had had anal sex, and she was worried that she was going to get AIDS. And I kind of thought, what is she on about? And then it finally clicked, that there's this association with the act itself. It's not a full understanding that it's a virus, that's transmitted in certain ways. It's a monogamous relationship. It's not going to emerge from this strange and hideous thing that you've done. That really drove home for me that this just isn't about gay men feeling guilty. It's a psychological thing that happens to people, I think, and that's the amazing thing about this, because it was a sexually transmitted illness and it was associated with gay gay sex, there's this alignment of morals and guilt and disease. You know, made it so much more possible. And to hear, I mean, I remember saying to her, "Oh, do you think your husband's been unfaithful?"
Oh, absolutely not.
It's a virus, darling.
I know that one night I was out at a bar and this guy tried to pick me up and he said,
I'm just going to say goodbye to a few of my mates.
And when he was coming back, I saw that he was leaving a group of guys that were all looking at me. And I knew that one of the guys in the group knew that I was HIV positive. And when he came back, he said,
I'm not going home with you anymore.
So it was obvious that someone in the group had actually told him that I was HIV positive. And well, it was kind of like I was outed. I mean, this was destroying in terms of my idea of sort of having a relationship or meeting someone.
There were people who were HIV who used to go to the gyms to build up the body to make it look like they didn't have it. I mean, they couldn't deny it, but they had to pretend that they didn't have it.
I remember it more as this growing sense that like everyone was affected. You know, initially it was just them. Oh, and then I remember this guy saying,
You keep an eye out for someone whose collar's a bit loose, because they got AIDS. You don't go out with those sort of people, you know.